Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2022-23 season. My name is Dan and it's time for the Gameweek 31 tier list video where we're going to rank the 30 most popular transfers of the week and kind of decide whether they are good transfers to bring in for this game week or not. So if you guys do enjoy this one, please do leave a like, please do subscribe if you are new around here. Without further ado guys, let's have a look at the players. Alright, so as always, 5 categories. We're going to put 30 players in here. If there are any players we don't talk about today, feel free to drop a comment and I'll let you know what kind of position I would put them in this table. But for now, let's stick with the first 30 most popular players, starting off with the 30th most popular transfer of Game Week 31 so far, and it is Leandro Trossard, who I'm going to put straight in the avoid category. He's just not nailed on at the moment. I think Martinelli's performances recently have just been so good that it is going to keep Trossard out of the team. We may see the occasional appearance from Trossard starting, but mostly we're going to see him off the bench, so I don't think he's going to be such a great player to own. We have got some tricky fixtures coming up for Arsenal after the next 2 game weeks. We've got West Ham in 31, Southampton in 32. After that, it does get a bit trickier. So you're kind of counting on a bench option kind of coming on and getting a couple of points against some difficult teams. Just can't see it happening. So first avoid of the game week, we're going to put him in there. Next up, I'm going to put Nathan Ake, probably in good transfer, but I would arguably even put him in great transfer as long as you have a free hit for game week 32. And by the way, guys, this is probably going to be the hardest tier list video for me to make because it's really going to be depending so much on whether you are free hitting in game week 32 or not. Now, we've got 2 double game weeks to come from Manchester City, so as long as you can cover him for game week 32, we have 34 and 37 double game weeks for Man City. Man City's underlying numbers in defence are looking very good. They have been keeping a few clean sheets recently, and I do believe that Nathan Ake is the most nailed on Man City defender right now. So I really do feel like this is a play. If you're going to go for a Man City defender at all, Nathan Ake would definitely be the guy I would go for. So I'm happy to put him in a good transfer, maybe even could bump him up to a great transfer, but not quite sure about that one just yet. Zinchenko, I'm going to probably put in optional. I think he's okay. He takes some nice shots from range, I guess, and he can be a little bit creative as well. The next 2 fixtures are good for him. We've got West Ham next and then Southampton. So I feel like if you're not free hitting in 32, I would possibly go for him. But if you're not free hitting at all, well, that's great. But if you are free hitting in 32, I just don't think I would go for him. I don't think I would go near Arsenal defenders. Defensively, Arsenal have not actually been that great recently. They've been doing amazing in attack, but there have been some fragilities in defence. And Liverpool, very unlucky to not score more goals against Arsenal. And if they were sort of conceding 3 or 4 goals, then we'd probably be looking at that and thinking, maybe there's a little bit of trouble here. So not sure I'd be willing to spend 5.2 million on Zinchenko, particularly if I'm free hitting in game week 32. But I'll put him in optional anyway, because I can understand he might suit some people, but probably not the best transfer on this list today. Martinez, I'm going to put him in optional as well. He's an okay goalkeeper to go for if you're looking for a goalkeeper right now. Got Newcastle up next. At home, it's not a terrible fixture, but to be fair, Newcastle have been scoring quite well recently, scoring a lot of goals, so maybe that's going to be a tricky one for Aston Villa. Not overly confident about this one, but you could do worse in terms of goalkeepers. But we've got a couple of goalkeepers on this tier list today. I think if I'm going for a goalkeeper right now, I'm probably going for Edison, to be fair. So, I don't know, maybe you guys prefer some of the other goalkeepers, but I think I prefer Edison for those double game weeks coming up, and obviously the blank game week in 32. You're hopefully going to have your backup goalkeeper able to cover that game week. Perisic, I'm going to put him in the avoid category as well. I know we've got a nice fixture against Bournemouth up next, but Spurs have just not looked so good recently. Bournemouth are more than capable of scoring the odd goal, and I just think that's a lot of money to be spending on a kind of a defender who is not nailed on, doesn't get attacking returns too consistently. You know, he's in and out of the team constantly. The team he's playing for is not looking great at the moment. Just doesn't seem like the best move to me to go for right now. There are some tricky fixtures coming up for Spurs as well, so maybe there's one Spurs player you might be thinking about. Aside from that, not really too sure. Kieran Trippier, I still think he's a very good option to have, particularly those of you guys not on a free hit in 32. You're going to want to have those 32 playing players. I think Trippier is definitely a player who we want to have around our team kind of permanently, probably. Andreas up next. He's just the kind of player who is just optional. Like, he's like the most optional player. He's going to suit some people. If you need to free up some money for some reason, you want to make a big transfer and you need to downgrade one of your players, Andreas, you could do a lot worse. He plays at Leeds as well in Game Week 32. So if you're looking to cover someone in, cover the positions, cover your starting 11 in Game Week 32 just for one game week only, and you're just going to leave Andreas on the bench for the rest of the kind of season, I think that's absolutely fine. Odegaard, I'm not too keen on this one, if I'm honest. I'm going to put him down in optional. I feel like he is probably, if we're looking at the 3 Arsenal midfielders right now that a lot of people are going for, maybe there's 4 to be fair if we include Trossard, but out of the 3 main starting Arsenal midfielders, I think Odegaard is probably the worst one at this point. So yeah, not too much motivation to go for him right now. Lewis Dunk, yeah, again, not really sure I would be too keen on this one. He does play Chelsea, and I don't know. I feel like I'm going to put him in the avoid section because I don't want to overload the optional, and I don't want to sit on the fence too much because I know I can be guilty of just putting everyone in optional. But would I personally be going for Lewis Dunk ahead of Chelsea and then a blank game week? Probably not. So if you're looking for a Brighton defender, first of all, I would probably prefer to go for Pervis Estupiñán, but second of all, I would just wait till game week 33, where suddenly Brighton have amazing fixtures, double game week all over the place. I'll just wait a little bit longer before going in on the Brighton defence. They have been conceding a few goals recently as well. Harry Kane, I'm going to put in a great transfer today. And the reason is because I know a lot of people are, obviously not on a free hit in game week 32. So you're going to need to have those players to cover you. But also with Harry Kane, it's a great option for captaincy for this game week, particularly for those of you guys who are not going for Erling Haaland. I feel like the best captain, aside from Haaland, is Kane versus Bournemouth at home. He's been super reliable recently. It's a very good fixture for him. It seems like it would be a really good option for the people who don't have Erling Haaland, who are maybe waiting it out. You're going to try and survive this game week without him. Game week 32 is a blank. Game week 33 is against Arsenal. So if you are just trying to hold off a little bit on Erling Haaland, then I think Kane is possibly the solution to cover yourself for captaincy for this game week. Yeah, that's probably the way I would go about it, and maybe think about switching Kane back to Erling Haaland in game week 33, really. I think that's probably what I would possibly think about doing if you're committed to going without Haaland. Kane is your friend. Tony, I don't really know where to put him, to be honest. I guess we put him in optional. He is playing very well still. He's still scoring goals. I know he missed a penalty, but that's going to be a very rare kind of thing. But the problem with Tony, as we know, he is kind of verging on that 2-game suspension. One more yellow card, and we know Tony does like a yellow card. He can't stay completely safe for the rest of the season. At some point, he is going to get his yellow card and his 2-game suspension. I don't know when it's going to be. You guys don't know when it's going to be either. It's risky. Every week you have Tony is risky. In fact, I probably wouldn't transfer him in. If I already had him, like, fine. If he gets his yellow card, you transfer him out for someone else. But would I be buying him? Yeah, I guess you could. He's a good player. He scores points, but he's just so risky right now. So I'm not going to encourage that risk. I'm just going to slap him in the optional category, and you guys can make that decision for yourself. Ben Mee is going to go straight into the avoid category. I know he has a good fixture against Wolves, but as always with Ben Mee, I'd rather go for Rico Henry. I would rather go for Ethan Pinnock. They are a lot cheaper and give you actually more than Ben Mee gives you. So yeah, easy avoid for Ben Mee, but that's not because I don't like Brentford defence. It's just that I prefer Rico Henry and Pinnock, and I've kind of been fairly consistent with that one. Michael Elise is an interesting one. Hat-trick of assists in game week 30, which was really impressive, but this is the problem with Elise. He hasn't been consistent at all this season. Like, we haven't got enough data to suggest that he's going to go on and bang for the rest of the season. Crystal Palace do have amazing fixtures, and out of the non-doubling teams, they probably have the best run of fixtures between now and the end of the season out of any team in the Premier League. So that is a plus in his favour. But the assist that he got, 3 assists from an expected assists of around 1. So, he did overperform that game. He hasn't really shown this season at all, really, that he's going to be a reliable FPL asset. So if you are banking on him being really good going forward, then that's absolutely fine. And I think that's why he's an optional player and definitely a very interesting differential. But if you were to ask me, objectively speaking, Daniel, do you think Michael Elise is a good transfer? I would be really, I find it difficult to say yes in an objective way. It's an interesting differential that could pay off. but I'm not super confident about this one, so I'm not happy to put him any higher than that. Next up, Mo Salah, who I'm going to put in good transfer for this game week. Another potential option for our game week 31 against Leeds. Leeds struggling a little bit in defence at the moment, so that could be an opportunity. Salah looked very dangerous against Arsenal. Maybe not on penalties anymore. Few rumours flying about that Salah might not be on penalties for Liverpool anymore, which may impact your decisions a little bit. It's kind of going to be up to you in a way. But at the same time, he is a player who has a fixture in game week 32. So again, if you are not going for Erling Haaland, you need players, you need captains, you need just things going on for game week 32, then Salah is potentially your friend, because not only that, he also has the double in 34 as well, a pretty good double as well. So there is definitely potential for Salah to do well. I just don't think that he is in the great transfer or must-buy category, because Liverpool have been kind of so all over the place a little bit recently, not filling us with too much confidence. It's a really interesting pick, and probably, to be fair, out of all of the Liverpool players, Salah would be the only player who I'd be saying, yeah, I think this is a reasonably good transfer. All of the rest are just so high risk, and I don't even know if they're high reward these days anymore. But yeah, Salah, I think he's fun. I think he's absolutely fun. Nick Pope, not really sure why he has been transferred in so heavily. I think he's an okay goalkeeper to have, but if we're completely honest, the only reason anyone's buying Pope is because he saved a penalty, and everyone is kind of, a lot of people, we know this, a lot of people play FPL and they just look at who scored the most points last game week, which is why Pope is so popular this week, and they're probably going to think Pope is going to save a penalty every week. You know, it was a Tony penalty as well. Like, you know, if you asked me if Pope is going to save the penalty from Tony, 99% of the time, it's not going to happen. So it's real bit of luck there for Pope. And kind of, if you've got the points, amazing, take them and run. But if you're expecting that to happen every week, then you're going to be very much mistaken. And certainly if you're bringing him in this game week, well, I don't know. You are hoping for a lot there, really. Saka, I think I need to put him in. Probably great transfer, but particularly for those of you guys not free hitting in game week 32, I think he's a very good option. Unlucky not to get any more FPL returns in that game against Liverpool. You know, you guys probably watched the game. Amazing game, by the way. And yeah, perhaps at that last minute, if Martinelli's pass was a little bit better, Saka got on the end of that. Saka did look dangerous at times, and we know he's on penalties as well when he's on the pitch. So yeah, I think he's a good transfer. I think he's a good player to go for right now. Definitely an option for you guys. I'm going to put Solly March in a good transfer as well. But again, this is really dependent on the free hit. If I'm free hitting in game week 32, which I am, then, and I don't have Solly March and I don't have the Brighton triple up, I probably would get it done now. You know, particularly with those midfielders that are doing so well at the moment. Solly March, you know, you guys know that I'm a massive fan of him, but again, it's kind of up to you. This Chelsea team, as it is, we're expecting this Chelsea team to be a little bit more attacking, a little less defensive. They'll obviously move to a 4 at the back formation, and they're going to show some fragilities under Frank Lampard, and that is going to give an opportunity for a good team like Brighton to potentially score against them, but we do have that blank in 32, so it's going to be dependent, again, team dependent. This is such a frustrating video to make, because I wish I could just say, yeah, March is good for everyone, but he's not. If I'm completely honest, he's not. So I'm going to put him in the good transfer category. Probably put him ahead of Nathan Ake. For those of you guys on the free hit 32, we'll put him right there. Gabriel, don't think I would be going for him at this moment, to be honest. Could we put him around Zinchenko's place? I guess. Yeah, obviously he has those opportunities to score goals from corners. So, yeah, maybe he's around there. But honestly, 5.3 million for a central defender who's only going to be scoring from corners. I'm not super convinced. So we'll put him in optional, but we might bump him down to avoid. In fact, I might bump a few players down to avoid, because once again, I'm filling up the optional category, and that means I'm sitting on the fence, which is not something I want to do. I need to stop doing that. Ollie Watkins, the good fixtures, well, the great fixtures have kind of passed, but he's still in such good form, and I feel like, you know, when a player's in this form, they'll score against anyone. It doesn't matter who they play. It really doesn't matter who they play. And we have got a Newcastle, and it's a game at home. I feel like this is an opportunity. It's going to be an opportunity for Aston Villa and for Watkins. He's been so consistent. You can't really knock him at the moment. Plays a game in game week 32, so he covers you there as well. I would like to have Watkins in my team. He's arguably the form player of the Premier League right now. And if he wasn't playing against Newcastle, I perhaps would bump him up even higher. He could even be a must-buy. Like, I would genuinely consider him that high. So I'm going to bump him slightly above Trippier. I know he's got a difficult fixture, but when we're looking at forwards particularly, they will score when they're in the best form. And Watkins is quite literally in the best form of any forward in the Premier League right now. he will score against anyone. And I think he will score against Newcastle, to be honest. Aston Villa have been scoring goals recently, and I don't think this is an easy game for Newcastle anymore. So we're going to put Watkins there. Alexander Isak, I was going to put in, when I went into this video, I thought I'm going to put Isak in optional, but I'm going to stop sitting on the fence. I'm going to put him into avoid. I just feel like this game against Aston Villa is a slightly tough one, and the rotation is very much here for Isak. It's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. I feel like maybe if we can see consistently that Isak is the main starting striker for Newcastle, then we can buy him. But until that happens, it's just rotation risk. When he plays, he's amazing. Don't get me wrong. We could say the same thing about like Leandro Trossard, but if we don't know how much game time the player is going to be getting, it's so difficult to recommend him when we've got all of these other great strikers. We've got Harry Kane, we've got Watkins, we've got Erling Haaland, we've got Gabriel Jesus now back in the Arsenal team as well. We've got so many great forwards at the moment. There isn't really a place for a player as risky as Isak, but if you want to go for him, I guess you can. Let's put him in optional. Not happy about that, though. I might bump him down. Next up, Jack Grealish. So, okay. Well, I mean, he's playing well. Let's be honest. He is playing, he's in the form of his life. Well, in his Man City life anyway. Playing really well. I think he is going to be a great transfer. And, you know, I know a lot of us are kind of looking at the likes of James Maddison. He plays against Man City. Obviously, Man City play against Leicester. But Maddison not playing too well recently. Bit of a troll. Probably going to be looking to remove him. We've got Marcus Rashford, who is potentially out for a little while. Could have a long-term injury here. We're not 100% sure what the situation there is with Rashford, but hopefully that will be revealed in the next couple of days, the extent of the injury. If you're looking for that replacement, I'm really kind of struggling to find anyone outside of Jack Grealish. I mean, particularly for those of you free hitting in 32, Grealish is like the perfect midfield player to buy right now. He's a really decent price, playing for a team that has 2 double game weeks between now and the end of the season. He's in the best form that I've ever seen him in. He's genuinely one of kind of Man City's best players at the moment. In terms of the attacking output, it really is Erling Haaland dominating the stats, but Grealish is coming in second for expected goals and assists, expected goal involvements, I guess. Grealish is the second best attacker to go for Man City right now, and he's also seemingly nailed on at the moment. One thing that does concern me is the rotation. That's always going to be a concern when these Champions League games start coming thick and fast. We're going to start seeing a little bit of rotation for all Man City players. But again, at the same time, Man City are very much back in the title race now. So really, really difficult to say whether he is 100% nailed on or not. Man City players are always a risk. There's never a time where they're not a risk. But the upside here is really, really high. So therefore, if you're looking for that midfield replacement for whoever you have in midfield who you need to replace, Jack Grealish, particularly if you are, you know, well, pretty much only if you're free hitting in 32, to be fair. Yeah, I feel like he could be the one for you. Could be the one for you. So one to keep an eye on. Keep an eye on that Rashford news. Rashford to Grealish is definitely a transfer I'm thinking about, as if Rashford is out for a long, long time, which looks like it could potentially be a bit of a tricky one. Next up, De Bruyne. I'm not really convinced by putting him as high as Kane or Salah. I don't think he's a better option than those two. But, you know, again, if you want to go for something a little bit different, he is an option. I am going to put him in good transfer, though, because he does have the potential to score good points. Again, this is going to be the kind of transfer for those of you guys looking to free hit in 32. But we could put him in good transfer. Fabian Schär, I think, is an option. I guess, like, he has got a genuine, decent attacking threat. Don't know if I'd be rushing him in a game against Aston Villa, to be fair. So maybe that bumps him down into the avoid, because maybe it's not the right game week for him. But I think you can do far worse. I think you can do far worse, to be fair. So maybe we do put him in the optional category, and I'll try and commit to not putting... Well, I'll allow myself one more optional for the rest of the video. But for now, we're going to put Fabian Schär. Let's put him next to Nick Pope there. There we go. That's not too bad, is it? Yeah, there we go. All right, Kaldu Mitoma, going to put him right next to Solly March. Once again, guys, I am not going to put Mitoma above March, but I will put them next to each other. I acknowledge that they are similar. You know, like, I don't think Mitoma is a bad kind of player to have at all. And, you know, I have a lot of the same arguments where I was kind of advocating for March. I will also, the same thing, I will advocate for Mitoma in that same situation. But one thing I will say is the underlying numbers are still suggesting that March is the better pick. And ironically, I think Mitoma was actually really unlucky not to outscore March in the last game week. I do feel like that. You know, there was the penalty that should have been a penalty. There was the disallowed goal as well. So he actually did really well last game week, to be fair to him. But in general, we are seeing that March's underlying numbers are a lot better. And I know, and I kind of have been reading your comments, guys, on these kind of videos where I have been ranking March above. And a lot of you guys have been saying, well, Kaoru Mitoma, he is a player who is more clinical. And that works to an extent, and I do agree with you. But the thing is, a lot of his attacking contributions recently have been assists, and he is overperforming a lot on his assists, and it's much more difficult to be clinical when it comes to assists, if that makes sense. Like, I know, like, if you have, like, I don't know, an XG of 0.8 consistently per game, and you're scoring 1 goal per game as well, that's like a clinical striker. You know, you're overperforming a little bit, but it makes sense. This is a clinical player. They will overperform their XG. When it comes to expected assists, it's a little bit different, I think. So, yeah, I think March has got, you know, far more expected assists than Kaoru Mitoma. It's just that I feel like March has been a little bit more unlucky that the person on the other end of the pass have been less clinical. But and you can kind of put that down to coincidence a little bit more. You can put that down to luck a little bit more, I guess, I think. So, look, I definitely agree that Kaoru Mitoma is a great pick. He's definitely more clinical in front of goal. He gets less chances per game. He creates less per game. But because of the fact that March's underlying numbers are so much better, and the fact that a lot of the underperformance from March and overperformance from Mitoma has been in the realms of assists, I still do think March edges him. I still do think that. And look, you're absolutely fine to disagree with me on that one. All I'm doing in this video is just giving my kind of perspective on these things and how I like to play FPL personally. But look, there's more than one ways to play FPL. This is just how I like to do it. So fair enough if you guys disagree, and I know there will be people who disagree, and that's absolutely fine. Still think he's a fantastic pick for what it's worth. I'm a bit of a March fanboy. I watch the games, I look at the numbers, and I look at him every game and think this guy is dangerous. This guy is dangerous every game. So yeah, Solly March gang, rise up. Next up, Gabriel Jesus. Again, if you are not free hitting in Game Week 32, you need a player for the next 2 game weeks. West Ham next. Like, West Ham have had some poor results recently. You do fancy Arsenal to score a couple of goals. Jesus does seem to be kind of a little bit central to a lot of the things that are going on at Arsenal right now. He's coming back with a bang. So, yeah, I feel like we can put him in the same realms. Good transfer. I don't think it's an amazing transfer because after Game Week 32, those fixtures do get a lot more difficult. But for now, for the next couple of game weeks, if you're just looking for that, you know, player, and he, you know, like I say, a good forward in good form will score against anyone. Maybe we do put him kind of high up. I'm going to put him around. Let's put him next to Saka. Why not? Next up, Martinez. So, yeah, I feel like maybe we could put him in good transfer if you just need that cheap Man United defender. Like, and you just want to have a Man United cover for the double game weeks coming up. Luke Shaw is obviously not an option at the moment until we kind of find out what his situation is. So yeah, it's a really good price. It's been scoring well. Man United improved defensively. Got Nottingham Forest up next. Yeah, why not? I don't mind this one. Good transfer. Quite nice. Ben White. Going to put him in optional. We're going to put him in optional. Right, okay. But I promise you guys, he's going to be my final optional player of the video. No more optional players. Yeah, Ben White, I think he's optional. 2 opportunities for clean sheets over the next 2 games. So that's pretty nice. Covers you for 32. But again, he's going to be one of those players who, if you are free hitting in Game Week 32 anyway, there's probably no point in bringing in Ben White because Arsenal's fixtures after Game Week 32 are pretty tragic, to be fair. So, yeah. He's a decent price. It's a very good price. We could even bump him up a little bit. Good option for the next couple of game weeks. I think he's absolutely fine. Next up, Tyrone Mings. Gotta put him in good transfer as well, I think. Yeah, let's put him in good transfer as well. He's been playing really well recently, getting consistent points. Aston Villa improved in defence as well. Yeah, just a fairly decent pick, I guess. Nothing too interesting, to be fair, but, you know, just a solid pick. Defenders are not that interesting in general at the moment, if we're honest. There's not been too many clean sheets, but in and amongst the lack of clean sheets, the likes of Tyrone Mings, Martinez, they have been getting clean sheets, so they have got to go in there. 4.5 million, they're good prices. Next up, Martinelli. Can I put him in must-buy? I don't know if I can. He is in fantastic form. Like, he really is. And, you know, I'll say the same thing that I've been saying before. when all of the Arsenal forwards are, well, when all of the Arsenal forwards start a game, no matter who it is, from Martinelli to Jesus to Trossard, when the player starts the game, there is no better player than Martinelli right now. He is, whenever per minutes played, his output is just phenomenal at the moment. He's doing really, really well. He's actually the second highest point scorer since the World Cup restart. Considering he actually had a little bit of a quiet period at the beginning of that as well, that probably tells you quite a lot. So Martinelli really genuinely is a fantastic player in fantastic form. And between him and Watkins, these are the two players in the best form in the Premier League right now. You know, if you look at the numbers, if you look at the underlying numbers as well, these two players, Martinelli and Watkins, it's all about them at the moment. Martinelli plays against West Ham next. West Ham, I think, are kind of have some weaknesses on the right-hand side of their defence, potentially there. Like I say, West Ham have had a couple of bad results recently, and Arsenal, the attacking form that they're in right now, you back them to score a couple of goals in this game. Then again, Southampton, the game after that in Game Week 32, again, really, really nice for Arsenal. After that, and again, we'll go back to what I was saying, a good forward in good form will score against anyone, so you don't need to worry about the fixtures as much when we're looking at really in-form kind of forward. So, is he a must-buy? He's up there, isn't he? He's up there. I think, to be fair, you guys are possibly looking for a Maddison or a Rashford replacement. It's probably going to go the way of, if you are free hitting in Game Week 32, you go for Grealish. If you are not free hitting in Game Week 32, you go for Martinelli. So therefore, do we need to put Martinelli and Grealish maybe on the same level, therefore? Maybe. I'm going to put Martinelli slightly higher because I feel like he benefits a lot of people, probably most people in general. How many people are going to free hit in Game Week 32? Like, let me know in the comments. I would imagine probably like 40% of you watching probably free hitting in 32 and 60% not. So therefore, Martinelli is probably going to be slightly more useful to most people, but not by much. So yeah, that's that. Final player of the tier list is going to go to Erling Haaland, and this is such a tricky one. If you don't own Erling Haaland right now, and you are not, well, first of all, if you're free hitting in Game Week 32, buy Erling Haaland. Just make it happen. Do it. I don't care how you do it. Like, sacrifice Kane, sacrifice Salah, sacrifice Bruno Fernandes, sacrifice anyone. It doesn't matter. Make sure you get Erling Haaland into your team as soon as possible and captain him probably as well. But if you're not free hitting in 32, I would still be tempted to do this. As long as you're not sacrificing, like if you've got Salah and Kane in your team right now, as long as you don't have to sacrifice either of those guys, I still would probably do it. I don't think I would sacrifice Kane for Haaland, particularly if you need a -4. You know, if you're taking a -4 to sell Salah to get Erling Haaland and you're not free hitting in Game Week 32, I don't think I would do it for a -4. But if you can just buy Erling Haaland outright, just bench him in Game Week 32, play with 10 men in Game Week 32. It probably doesn't matter. He's probably going to make it worth your while in Game Week 31 alone. But look, it's going to be so team dependent. It's going to be so strategy dependent. It's really, really difficult. It's such a hard video to make. Erling Haaland, you know, for all intents and purposes, is a must-buy player for anyone. You know, we kind of said the same thing last game week. We'll say it again this game week. He is just so dangerous, and he can really, really hurt you if you don't have him in your team. So at some point, you just have to bite the bullet and get it done. But depends on your strategy. So therefore, is anyone really a must-buy? No, they're not. They're not. And I think that is the first time I've ever made a tier list video where there is no must-buy player. And the reason is because everyone has a different strategy right now. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. So, I mean, hopefully this tier list is still going to be helpful for you guys. But you are going to have to use a bit of nuance, think about your strategy a little bit, and use that to make your decisions on who is actually a good transfer, who is actually a must-buy kind of thing, who is actually an avoid for you, because it is going to be team dependent. Oh, I hate that phrase so much, team dependent. But thankfully, after this game week, we'll go into blank Game Week 32, and hopefully for the rest of the season, there will be very few team-dependent type transfers, I guess, and we can be a lot more kind of straight and narrow, forward-thinking, you know, really simple, nice and easy kind of suggestions for you guys. But for now, this is going to be the last, hopefully the last complicated week in terms of where to put players, and that is going to be the tier list. No must-buy this week, but still, if you look at the great transfer category, I'm sure 1 or 2 of these players are going to be must-buys for you personally. So, there we go. That is the tier list. Let me know what you think. Have I got it right? Maybe. But I've tried. I've tried at least. Oh, really long one today, guys. I do apologise, but thank you so much for watching today. If you wouldn't mind dropping a like, it really does help out the channel so much. Do subscribe if you're new around here as well. Would massively appreciate that. Aside from that, guys, I will see you tomorrow for buy, sell, keep, avoid, which we'll try and keep things a little bit more concise. Until then, guys, thank you so much for watching once again, and I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.